What approach did you and the team take, and how did it work out for you in the long run?
Well, I didn't think it was the right one to start with. We went very long on the reds, and I've been struggling on the reds, and I was pretty vocal on the radio. We kind of in the pre-race meeting we're like, oh, we're not going to run very long on the reds, and we ran all the way to the end of the reds. So I was a little surprised at that, and obviously some of the other cars that had switched up that strategy. Even if you look at Hinch, it was a nice rebound for them, spinning at the start, getting that caution, and then able to run that black tail all the way through, and jumping us on that second to last pit stop. So it's it was an interesting day. It always is here. Tomorrow, I think if we get some weather, it's going to be even more interesting. You kind of got to be in the right place at the right time. And not get collected. So I'm just happy, we came out of today unscathed, and we got some good points, got the points lead, which is huge for us. When we're not 100%, these are the days that definitely help championships. Where you got to strive to get the most out of it, and I think we did a good job of that today.
Questions for Scott, starting with Bruce.
Obviously, winning would be the best medicine, but is this pretty good medicine?
Well, as you said, it's not winning, but it's close. I think, all things considering, everybody's pretty happy. I haven't seen the team yet, but, I think with the effort, that's gone on this week. I think that's I think above expectations, but, to be honest, our expectations to go to every race weekend and win. So we came close. I think we had a good car in the long run, and we started to close that gap towards the end, brought it down by 3 or 4 seconds. So, qualifying is going to be important tomorrow, so we'll have to try and get the most out of that. And it was important. Hinch proved that it really wasn't. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Sure.
We'll go ahead and welcome in James Hinchcliffe, who finished third in today's Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix presented by Lear. James, a long race, as we were just talking about with Scott, a lot of different strategies playing out, but it seems like things ended up well with you and the Aero SPM crew.
Yeah, it's all about thinking on your feet in the Verizon IndyCar Series, and we had to do that. There's, kind of 2 main strategies coming into it. One was going to be kind of reserved for the top half of the grid, the other for the back, and we started the race planning to do one, and by turn 1, we switched to the other, and kind of inadvertently, but it worked out well. We got off the reds and had a really strong car on blacks. Caught a yellow flag at just the right time to kind of close the field up and put us running with the guys that really, we should have been running with all day, and managed to jump ahead of Rossi and Takuma there. Couldn't quite keep Dixon behind us, but that's no surprise. And congrats to Graham. Honda 1-2-3 here in Detroit is a pretty good result. And like I said, just huge credit to the boys. They were great in the pits. Car was awesome. We didn't have the best car yesterday, so to come back with a podium today is pretty special. And Mikhail P6, so a good day for the team overall.
Questions? Tony, and then Lewis.
Scott, this is always a tough week to prepare for anyway, in the best of times physically with 2 races. Naturally, this was a different week for you. How did the preparation from a physical standpoint change coming into this weekend to make sure you're still as good to go as possible?
I don't know. I think you kind of favor things in the car differently when when you've maybe got an injury. I felt pretty worn out. I was actually glad the race was over when it was. But I think as preparation, you try to do as much as you can. The month of May is always grueling anyway. It's always hard to get in the training that you need, and this probably is the most physical track that we come to, I think, and outside of being a doubleheader, just with how bumpy it is, and you don't get too much time to rest. The straights are not very long, and
not very straight.
Not very straight. Yeah, so it's it is what it is, and it would have been nice for a shorter race, but hey, 7 laps.
Lewis.
Hinch, seems to me in racing, you got your mind on the start, and then you spun, and then you're waiting to get pushed. Do you do no alt control reset when it comes time to go back racing? How do you switch back into full race mode?
I've been around this series long enough now to know that an incident in turn 1 doesn't necessarily have to ruin your day. We've seen it a lot of times. We saw Bourdais win from starting last, so I kind of sat in the car and thought, well, Sebastian did it at St. Pete. Why can't we do the same thing? And knowing that there was a strategy that kind of favored guys getting off reds who were at the back early, I immediately, as soon as we were backwards, knew that we were going to be switching to that, and we kind of had a backup plan in that sense. And I was just lucky that the car was good enough, and we were able to make some passes on track, make some spaces up in pit lane. But yeah, I mean, these races are so long; they ebb and flow a lot, and just because you're last at one phase doesn't necessarily mean you're out of the game.
Greg?
Scott, is there any way of telling why some guys are getting more out of the reds than others, and why you got more out of the reds?
Yeah, it's a good question. We definitely need to know that. I struggled on the reds. I thought we were making ground and definitely pressuring Rossi a lot. And then I don't know if it was because I was running quite close behind him. I burnt mine off, and he was able to stretch out, a good 3 or 4 seconds. So. Yeah, that was not in our strategy whatsoever to run long on reds, but we ran until the car ran out of fuel. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm really not sure. Even in qualifying, we've been struggling with getting the reds, the performance out of them. We're kind of there, but we're missing a little bit. So, the longevity of those are not great every year, but I think we did the best that we could with the scenario that we ended up having.
Larry and then Bruce.
Could you both speak to the parity here in the series? I mean, 7 races, 7 winners. What's it like to be a part of that?
I wouldn't know. I'm still working on that.
Coming from what, the 4th all-time winner? Relax, bro. It's coming. I mean, I think it's awesome. It's funny hearing, criticism about the depth of our field from someone who has to race 3 other cars when we've got 7 winners in the first 7 races. It shows how competitive this series is. The parity between the manufacturers, between teams, just how difficult it is to win one of these races. You really have to have everything go your way. Your pit stops have to be perfect. Flags have to fall in your favor, things like that. And you got to be pretty good behind the wheel with a good car. So. For me, I think it's the greatest racing on 4 wheels on the planet, and we're all very privileged to be able to race again in such a deep field and such a high class of driver here.
Bruce?
Scott, after this past week, did you help Emma get her nursing degree?
She got a nursing degree? She's very hands-on. So I learned how bad I was, apparently. So I need to work on that a lot. I'm not very attentive, apparently. So she was amazing. Definitely helped a lot, and she's still telling me to use my crutch and all that stuff, and I don't think it's cool, so I'm not using it, and that seems to
yeah, man, that's the spirit.
That seems to push her buttons. So no, she's been fantastic.